show. We've got some really cool news and updates for you today, including Elizabeth Warren, our hero on the warpath again. How so many people are now saying too big has failed, and we need to support these people. So we're going to show you exactly who is saying that, who we can support. I'm going to show you some of the sheets that we've got set up that you can help participate in and submit contact information for, so that everybody on the planet can get updated quickly, find the information they need, so that we can all talk to our representatives easily and without fail. So we're going to talk about that. Also, I'm going to bring you some updates. I've gotten some updates from folks that are not able to join us today, but their situation is pretty dire and they're very upset. So I want to share that, because banks are still stealing. They are still stealing the properties, and we know absolutely for a fact, pretty quick, we're going to have a court ruling that this is truly bank theft. It is not a fraudulent foreclosure, because like James pointed out yesterday so clearly, that implies some kind of an admission. It is truly bank theft, because banks do not, the servicers, the banks, nobody has a right to the title of your property. That's the answer, and that's what we're going to have to continue to work on. There's another, the California, using the California Homeowner Bill of Rights lawsuit. I've got that. We're going to review that today. It's very short, and considering that the attorney made 20 grand for that, I'm soliciting attorneys. Come on, guys, everybody's asking for you. So if you know an attorney, if you are an attorney, you want to get involved in helping people fight back and win and actually get paid for it, contact me. I'm putting a page together so that people know where to go. Obviously, the whole point is united, we can stand and fight a really good battle. So, before we get started, I wanted to bring to your attention what is happening. This is an update from Mary Ella Hutchinson. She's a retired real estate broker in North Carolina. She has been fighting on behalf of homeowners, trying to keep the banks from stealing the homes. And if you recall, a couple of months ago, could have been longer, 3 months maybe, she was really complaining about the clerk of the court, and how the clerk of the court was actually aiding and abetting bank delinquency and not doing the right thing. And they got a new clerk, and she was super excited about that. And now I invited her to share this today. She's had a hearing at 10 in the morning. That would be 7 for my time. She thinks she may be home by now, but I've not heard from her this morning, and she says she may be in jail. So here's hoping, Mary, that you're not in jail. This is what she says. I'm going to just read her email to you. Our new clerk has been doing things right. 60 moratoriums on foreclosures until she got her head on straight. But then today, she did a 360-degree turn. And instead of giving continuance, actually it's 180 because turn will be all the way around, but she turned the complete opposite direction. Now the clerk is giving extended sale dates. One family was working on a short sale, one was working on a loan modification. So the short sale is dead, because the bank will never agree to a short sale when they have the order in their hands to sell. And the other one doing the loan mod will never get his loan mod with that order for sale signed. And they convinced, meaning the court, convinced the homeowners that they were doing them a favor by extending the sale date out. She was out of her mind with anger at what she saw today. One homeowner asked to see his evidence twice and was told, okay, we'll let you see it, but then just kept talking and never gave it to him at all. Not even after the order was signed. This is a due process issue, and this new clerk just helped this foreclosure mill and bank steal these homes today. She's outraged, as everyone should be outraged, and let's never ever forget that these specific individuals can be charged. I read on. They even gave me a hard time about seeing the file after it was stamped and entered into the record. They said that Mary had to review it in the presence of a court official. I am sure they will want to stand and watch me review files every day. This was a very bad scene. She's incensed at what happened. They had some kind of meeting this morning and decided a new policy without telling anyone what they were doing. And instead of creating a system full of integrity, as this clerk had promised, she shredded it. God bless America, I will not take this one sitting down. I may very well be in jail tomorrow. They also told the homeowners that they get only one continuance. This is a big, horrible joke. Those files are full of continuances, and the clerk can grant a continuance for cause anytime she wants to. CJ, she goes on, this was beyond anything this clerk had promised to do. Nothing even close to doing the right thing. She lied and coddled and schmoozed her way into an ACLU lawsuit, I hope and pray. Mary, our thoughts and prayers go out with you today. We truly appreciate you standing up. The assault is everywhere. There's a saying, and it goes like this: when the king is evil, all of his counselors are evil. What that basically means is when you have the head of the agency willing to ignore the law and just do what he wants, then everybody in that structure, that power structure, everybody follows the king's lead. The only ones getting promoted are the ones that do what the king does. Everyone else trying to do the right thing gets fired. So this is what we see in our system of justice. It's getting corrupted even at this very, what I would call the low level, right at the court level, right at the clerk of the court, who says one thing, then either gets bought off, threatened off, extorted, blackmailed. We don't have any idea. Just sold a bill of goods. Maybe she just thinks she's doing the right thing because some bank, somebody obviously got to this person. And now it's causing horrific damage to these people and to the law. So Mary, we thank you so much for standing up for it, because truly when good men give in and quit standing up for it, it's over. And I've been saying for a long time, and now, you've heard over the course of the last several days, especially, voices like Ron Paul. I mean, the people are standing up and saying the same thing. If we don't have a just country, then what do we have? We just have a dictatorship, a tyranny. This is truly a situation that we must stand up, we must push back, and when we do, it does work. So don't you give up. Don't you give up. Spread the word. The more we have standing up and pushing back, the better off we'll be. So let's now go to Warren on the warpath. Oh, first, Napolitano is stepping down as Homeland Security Chief, and I just had to bring this to your attention. You may have already seen it in your little news alerts. But she's going to become, this is the job opportunity that she's leaving, head of Homeland Security. She's going to be the president of the University of California system. We're so lucky. Okay, enough said. All right. Here is an interesting thing. We're going to be focusing on banks today and about fighting back on the banks and how we can do these lawsuits and win. So here's a Freudian slip from Wells Fargo. This is a cute little article. And what this does, the writer is saying the cognitive dissonance about the dollar never fails to amaze me. What he's talking about is that people will see this sign and not really think about what it's saying. It's just like the activist. If you saw that clip, that is such a classic clip. It will be in my head forever. And that is an activist going out on the beaches of California and having a clipboard with a piece of paper, getting people to sign to help Obama abolish the Bill of Rights. And he talks about abolishing the Bill of Rights, and all these people are just brainlessly signing this, not listening, not knowing, not understanding what is even being said. And so here we go again now, what Wells Fargo says about the dollar. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. It says, this is an advertising sign in a Wells Fargo bank, a branch. Wells Fargo, fun fact. This is the fun fact. The dollar you invest today has more real value than the one you'll have in the future. It is true. It is true. The dollar is declining in value because Bernanke is just printing willy-nilly, willy-nilly. This is why we have a humongous stock bubble. It will burst. You can't just print trillions of dollars and give them to the banks and let them gamble with it without eventually that coming down on our head in the terms of higher inflation, which means the dollar will have less value in the future. And of course, it completely indicates the fiat currency system, which we can change. So let's see what Elizabeth Warren is up to. Too big has failed. I showed you that chart yesterday where even the returns on the big banks, Bank of America, Citigroup, are negative. Even as an investment, they've failed. Now here, she's introducing a 21st century Glass-Steagall Act. And for those of you not familiar with Glass-Steagall, real briefly, it was an act. The farmers drove their tractors to Washington after the Great Depression, and they insisted that their representatives split the banks, split the commercial banks making loans to businesses and commercial type loans, split that off from banks that gamble on Wall Street. They call them investment banks. And that's when they'll say things like, banking is boring. Banking needs to be boring. Boring banking is good. It's because making commercial loans is a boring yawner. It means that bank cannot take those proceeds and go gamble on Wall Street and make profits some other way. They have to make loans. They have to do good underwriting. The success of their loan portfolio is the success of the bank. It is exactly the way it was after the Depression. And what caused the Depression, you ask? Because banks were doing everything. They were making loans, they were gambling on Wall Street, they were doing exactly all of the things that they are doing right now, which crashed the country, pushed it into a huge depression. They foreclosed on 50% of the houses. So it was just a horrible time, and the people marched on Washington and said, you will change this. And Glass and Steagall put the act together, got it passed, split up the banks, and of course, that was the point. So here is a chart. The rise of too big to fail, and the total assets of the top 3 banks is as a percentage of total commercial banking sector assets. And you'll see that since Clinton signed into law, and it wasn't just him, there was Republican and Democrat Congress people all on board for this. They all were paid off. They're all mouthpieces of the banksters. And they all agreed, and off we go. In fact, I believe 60% of the gross domestic product last year was from the banks. This is crazy because Main Street is really where we live, not Wall Street. So Wall Street has just completely taken over everything and has been basically ruining Main Street because Main Street has still been dependent on banks that are now so engrossed in Wall Street they don't want to listen to you, to get loans so that Main Street can work. And this is why it's just been a horrible, horrible downturn in wealth and economic activity for Main Street, while the Wall Street banks are giving billions in dollars in bonuses to their people. And trust me, they are no smarter than you and me. I think we need to really listen to this. This is just a few minutes. This is a compilation from Elizabeth Warren and other speakers speaking out about Wall Street is now too big, and too big has failed, and we need to chop it back. I'm going, when they just have sentences like this, I'm going to read them out loud so that you'll hear, you don't have to watch to see what it says, because otherwise it's just silence. Wall Street was considered too big to fail in 2008. Is it still that way today? Let's watch.
Big banks, insurers, and other financial giants remain intact and arguably too big to fail. I mean, nothing really has changed.
No, definitely not. And if, in fact, if you want to look at it objectively, since 2008, the companies that we're talking about have become bigger and more dangerous.
And this is why it is necessary to limit their size and break up the biggest banks. Some former titans of Wall Street are saying much the same thing. Even Sandy Weill, who created the giant Citigroup, which required $45 billion in TARP loans and asset guarantees, Weill is proposing the biggest banks be broken up.
I'm suggesting that they be broken up so that the The taxpayer will never be at risk. The depositors won't be at risk. The leverage of the banks will be something reasonable.
In the 1930s, we saw banks merge with, real estate and security risks, and the whole thing collapsed. 20s and 30s, and so we put in place, I wasn't here, but we put in place laws like Glass-Steagall to prevent all of that.
Glass-Steagall broke up the big banks. What happened to that?
And then in 1999, we were told that's all old-fashioned. Let's strip that away and allow big financial holding companies one-stop financial shopping.
Sandy Weill made a mistake in 1999. So did a lot of other people. Phil Gramm, Bill Clinton, John Reed. Lots of people were on board the repeal of Glass-Steagall.
Unfortunately, I was one of the people who led the charge to try to get Glass-Steagall repealed. As I sit here today, I regret those activities and wish we hadn't done that.
I think that the beauty of Glass-Steagall was it was fragmenting the industry so that they were not all lobbying in one direction. The moment we took that out, they all consolidated their interests, so they were all lobbying in the same direction, and they were too powerful to resist.
And the main reason I would like to see that is I don't want insured deposits being used to fund those higher risk activities.
You need something to break the bank cartel. Okay, the top bank cartel. You need something to break them for the sake of finance industry.
We have to start breaking up the banks. If we are going to allow banks to become so big that they can't fail and we're afraid to restructure them, then we don't have ordinary capitalism anymore.
Therefore, my view, like the one of a number of other current or former policymakers like Mervyn King at the Bank of England or even Alan Greenspan today, is that if institutions are too big to fail, they're just too big and they have to be broken up.
Tell me this. Citigroup was, I said, $2.5 trillion when it failed. If it had been $5 trillion, would our situation today be better or worse? Okay, what if it had been $10 trillion? Or what if it was the size that RBS was relative to this economy? Let's call it $20 trillion. Would that be good? Would that be a good thing? Would it be better run? Would this bank be better run if it gets bigger?
So I believe you have to break them up. Let's go back to Depression-era laws that kept our system safe for decades and decades, like the Glass-Steagall Act. Yeah. Let's have size caps on top of that as a backup. Let's have a lot more capital requirements.
But are there any politicians serious about ending too big to fail?
Well, let's put it this way. A new Glass-Steagall is what's the first step toward making banking boring. And I think that's just really the key, because it separates commercial banking, savings accounts and checking accounts and that sort of thing, from the trading and risk-taking that occurs on Wall Street.
As Teddy Roosevelt told us 100+ years ago, it's time to break these guys up, because they have incredible concentration of ownership over our entire economy.
I feel like a real conservative on this issue, Peter. I want to go back to the way things were just 10 or 15 years ago. I want to go back to what we did after 1929 when we had the massive meltdown and the Congress actually wrote tough laws, Glass-Steagall, separating commercial banks from investment banks.
Today, people across the political spectrum, both parties, all ideologies, are speaking about the dangers of the large concentrated wealth of Wall Street megabanks. Another Republican in 2009, one a little familiar to a moderate audience, Alan Greenspan, said, if they're too big to fail, they're too big.
Recently, George Will said, quote, by breaking up the biggest banks, conservatives will not be putting asunder what the free market has drawn together. Government nurtured these behemoths by weaving in a provident safety net and by practicing crony capitalism, close quote. And Peggy Noonan, another well-known conservative, has said, quote, if you are conservative, you are skeptical of concentrated power. You know the bullying and bossism it can lead to. Too big to fail is too big to continue.
There is strong support on both sides of the aisle. And we can't afford another Wall Street bailout. Any bank that is too big to fail is too big, period.
Now what? Visit toobighasfailed.org and tell your senator to join the call to break up the big banks. After the Great Depression, we broke up the big banks. We should do that again. Now, what I'd like to ask my contacts, my followers, if you have the chance, click this link, go through each person, each one that is making this statement, from the person that is doing the interviewing to the person that's making these statements to people that they mention in their statements, and send that contact information. Please send it so that we can get it on. This is our contact sheet. This is a Google sheet that is available. As soon as we add something to it, it is available online to everyone. And you can just refresh your browser, click on that link again, and get these new links. And notice what we've done is have all of these emails here plus phone numbers. This is how I want to see every elected name, contact information in this sheet, because they can be sorted by state, by county, by city, by the organization type, by the company or the position this person is playing. You notice that some of these are council members or attorney general investigators or supervisors, or their state level contacts. Share with me. Come on, let's get this contact sheet functioning, because that way everybody can just bookmark it. We can know that whoever is finding a contact anywhere can stick it right here, and we can put it into this sheet so we can all find it. That way, if we're going to hammer our contacts, we don't have to, spend half a day trying to find up an email and not being able to be successful. So if you have any contact information of any electeds in your area, please just send an email. I will work this weekend and get them all entered while we're still working on getting the contact form set up so you can just enter it yourself. And then we can approve it and boom, 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 stick them into the sheet. This is the action plan that I believe we must use. And the more we use stuff like this, the better we're going to be. One thing I did want to point out about Elizabeth Warren's law, they did point out down here that it's only 30 pages. Now that sounds about right to me, instead of 30,000 pages that was in the Dodd-Frank Act. And I don't even know how many thousands of pages in all of these other acts. When people like Nancy Pelosi will say, well, we don't know what's in it, we have to pass it to find out, which is the ultimate inanity that I can imagine. How can a country run itself when its legislators, the people elected to represent us, are saying stupid things like that? That is just flat stupid. We have to pass it to see what it says. That's insane. And anybody that believes that has got to rethink how they make decisions. It's truly an outrageous thing to me. So, too big to fail, too big has failed, is starting to catch on. If they're too big, we've got to break them up. So please help us go through that little episode, that video, and any other videos you can find. Get that contact information so that we can have it in the sheet, so that we can, every one of us can take the same email, and all of us can start really magnifying our efforts in stopping, letting our representatives at all levels know that we want the banks broken up. We want the new Glass-Steagall. It'll be called the war on whatever the name of that law is going to be. We want it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about today, real briefly, bring you up to date, are some of the lawsuits. And this happens to be the order from the California lawsuit. Just for your refresher, and I'll put it again in the contact section, but here's the lawsuit page that's all linked on the info page of greattransition.org. So go to the info page, bookmark that page. Here's the contacts, here's the lawsuit. And since yesterday, I've added several of these. Whatever people are sending me now, it's pretty simple and quick for me to upload them, link them, write in what they are, and give you guys the links so that you can use them for your research and to review what is going on. Now, I found this one, and this one is Kevin Singh, plaintiff v. Bank of America Recon Trust, and this is the lawsuit It's just a few pages. 5 pages. And the conclusion is the owner got a temporary restraining order. He got an injunction against the foreclosure. They used the Homeowner Bill of Rights law and the dual tracking provision. And you'll see here, this is what the judge is writing. The plaintiff, that's Kevin, says, hey, look, we kept asking and asking for a loan modification, and they just kept cheating us. They wouldn't respond, they wouldn't give us a loan modification, and they started to give us, to foreclose. They started to take our house. And so during the negotiations, the plaintiff, Kevin, provided B of A detailed information about the financial and situation exchange for a lower monthly payment. It is a classic loan modification request and paperwork. As stated in open court at this hearing, the bank has not made written determination as to whether they qualify for a loan mod. Well, we all know what B of A is doing on their loan mod departments, according to 7 affidavits. And of course, B of A is challenging that and saying those people are crazy. We could never do that. You and I know they do that all the time because we have the effects of that behavior of cheating people, taking their money, denying the loan mod, shoving them into foreclosure, just literally we understand those blitzes where 1,500 applications are just deleted all at once and people have no rights. I hear about it all the time. So I don't believe for a minute that B of A has any, they're just mouthing lies, which is what they do in court. They're mouthing lies, and we have to stop this. So nevertheless, B of A hasn't given him any written determination as to whether they qualify or not. Instead, the B of A has repeatedly failed to respond to Kevin's inquiries about the status of his loan mod. Duh, we know they're incented to lie and cheat and steal, even though they're looking at the computer and they see all the paperwork. It hasn't been looked at, and they will just end up denying him this law. So any one of you in a loan mod getting this kind of treatment, you listen up. This is a decision for you, okay? And everybody in this state of California should be using this, number 1, as a threat, number 2, as a lawsuit. So the Bank of America and other lenders' practice of negotiating with homeowners in default while simultaneously advancing the foreclosure process is commonly referred to as dual tracking. This is just the lawsuit. I'm just reading some of the words, so now you have it. Copy paste, plug in your name, get an attorney. And so at the hearing, the court inquired of Kevin's attorney whether B of A ever responded to the complete application for the first lien loan mod, and B of A submitted a declaration which stated in part, I never received written notice or confirmation or anything whatsoever to state or indicate that I did not qualify for a loan mod. And so because the Bank of America has failed to respond to Kevin's application after Jan 1, 2013, but continued to try to foreclose, the judge has said, no way. It's over. Can't do it. And therefore, in order to preserve the status quo until the hearing on the plaintiff's, that's Kevin's motion for a preliminary injunction be had, the court now orders B of A to cancel the sale that was supposed to take place April 22, 2013. Now, the plaintiff, B of A, is going to be subject to the discovery to prove they have the right to foreclose. And I'm going to recommend to Kevin and his counsel and you and every other attorney that's going to be taking on these cases in California. By the way, Kevin's attorney got 20 grand out of B of A for this little 5-page lawsuit. Well, this is the order. I don't have the original lawsuit. Please help me get these documents. I'll link them so that we can look at the lawsuit, we can look at the orders, common sense people can start to make heads and tails out of this. The bottom line is it's not a very complicated lawsuit. They obviously never talked about anything like which mortgage-backed security, I don't have a securitization audit, none of that. This is simply on dual tracking. that is the easiest, simplest way for owners right now in California to delay and stay. And I recommend with this order, which you now have that information at your fingertips of what the case number is and what it's called, you can just put that in writing to any bank, any foreclosure mill, and any request for loan modification that, according to California state law and recent ruling, they cannot dual track you without getting into serious trouble with attorney's fees and be subject to discovery. And I highly recommend you say subject to discovery to prove they have right to title. Subject to discovery to prove the bank has right to title. Because that's the key that's happening in Texas. They do not have the right to title on the property, like James explained the last couple of days. It may be that there is some note, they may have some right to money somewhere. That's not what's being discussed. What's being discussed is, do they have the right to any access to the title? Can they actually take the property? And the answer is no. No, they do not have right to title. And that's the key. That's the whole key. Make them prove, or threaten to make them prove, the right to title. They don't have the right. That is what will really stop the foreclosure pandemic that's going on. I highly recommend in do-it-yourself efforts that you use those words in your letters, in your OCC complaints, in anything that you are doing it yourself for, in trying to fight off a foreclosure auction. Use in California, use this, and the threat that in this lawsuit you will require them to prove that the foreclosure is based on competent and complete and accurate documents, which actually means they have to prove they have right to title of your property. And if you're not in California, you'll notice that some of these lawsuits I have over here, we have the state that they're in. So right now I've only got Texas, one in Louisiana, Oregon, a couple in California, and Texas. So send me the lawsuits. People are starting to do this. I thank you. And truly, if you send me a lawsuit, if it's attached, it would be so helpful if you would actually just say it. Fill in these blanks. Which ones are they? I will take the lawsuit attachment that you've sent and upload it to the website so it can be linked here, and that way we will not lose them. Some of these are already linked someplace else. Who knows if that's going to be there down the road? So I'm saving all the docs, putting it on my own website, linking it here so that we know that it will always be available. And I will try to work on a form for this sheet today so that anyone can actually start to enter this information. Send me the document, we can check it, actually approve it, get it into the sheet. It'll help speed it up. So I really wanted to bring that to you for everyone in California and for any other state. Any other state, if you have a law passed in your state that actually states the bank cannot dual track, then you can use this. Use this lawsuit. Just plug in the right ruling, the right code, the right statute that they're violating when they do that. The other thing I wanted to point out, someone sent this to me and I do not have the original lawsuit. I'm asking for it. I've got several people that do belong to Pacer, and I do so appreciate for those, because I do know that in Pacer, when you download lawsuits, they charge by the page. So if it's an 80-page lawsuit, there's some money going out. And I really appreciate those that have volunteered to use their Pacer accounts to help the public get access to this information in a reliable way and format. I just wanted to bring to you on this case, this happens to be from Texas. This is a notice of settlement. This case has been filed, I think, in 2011. I only have, I think, an amendment that was done in 2011. So obviously it was, the original lawsuit was even before that. And these people, good old Jane McCarthy, the plaintiff, has fought B of A again, BAC Home Loan Servicing, and Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation. She fought them to a settlement. They've not been able to win. I'd love to see this original lawsuit, because then we can see what pleadings, what cases, what was written that worked, because that's the key. Even someone like me who's never filed a lawsuit and don't plan to, it's pretty obvious to me that literally, if you can find the pleadings that are working in these courts, then hunt and peck, pull them out of this case, that case, the other case, put them together, and then you know you've got something that's going to work, because it already has worked. And so these cases, these wins, this is developing case law. So use those in your pleadings. I'm going to be talking to someone next week who already has taken the affidavits of the case in Massachusetts. This is a multi-class action lawsuit with those loan modification employee affidavits, which I think I will be linking to the lawsuit page so that you'll be able to see those affidavits and have access to them just like that. Because this guy here in California has a B of A, has had a huge problem, hasn't everybody, and they have amended their complaint to include these affidavits. So I need to get that complaint up for you so you can look at that, see how they've amended it. I need to get the affidavits up, because this is the heart and soul of taking the land back, okay? There's so much tyranny everywhere we look, and we're seeing tyranny at the high level, like Eric Holder level, at the head of the agencies, all the way down to the people that work at the banks, at the branches. Some of them are being extremely tyrannical and completely out of line. And so the people, we have to fight back at all levels of tyranny. So every help we can get from each other, and this is what I'm trying to do, is to provide a platform so that this information can be plugged into it and everybody can easily find what they need to help themselves in the battle. The land, the theft of the land, our homes, is the heart and soul of the country. This truly, it is a bank theft. They have no right to title, and they are stealing the homes with fraud. And as this becomes more and more clear, people will stop saying, well, did you stop making your loan payments? Well, then you deserve to lose the house. Rather, they're saying, you've made the payments and now they're taking the house illegally, or they don't have any right to title. Oops, and I bought one and now my title is messed up. This is where we're headed. This exposure will come. It will come. It feels like it's taken so long. But look at how long these people have been fighting. Glass-Steagall was taken away, was removed in 1999. Do you realize that that's like 14 years ago? And so a lot of these issues have taken a decade to raise their ugly heads. We need to recognize we're not going to get rid of them in just a month. But we can continue to work and we can continue to expand our efforts. So please help us every way you can. This weekend, our work is cut out for us. Anybody and everybody that can send me information, links, contact information for any elected in any area in the United States, send it to me. I will take however long it takes to get that information into our contact sheet so everybody has it. Send me the lawsuits. Let's spread the word. We want the wins, because that way everybody can be doing for their own best interest, looking at the lawsuits and figuring out how they can, if you will, cut and paste these pleadings into a manner that will help them keep their home. Truly, every time a person in the country loses their home, you and I are less secure. That is just the way it is. We have to help everybody stop this. We need to help Mariella in her effort to help those people keep their homes. This is, and again, see, she's facing tyranny right at the county clerk of the court level. This is a very local level, and looks like she's on her own. So she needs help. We all need help. We need to fight back however we can, coordinate our efforts. And I thank you so much for watching. Our work is really cut out for us, but I plan to bring this live stream show a win every day. Let's bring a win that we can look at, that we can mull over, that we can pull information out of, so that we can magnify that into more wins for the people. This is truly the effort of our time, and I understand that we're all working trying to survive. But I so appreciate any few minutes that you can put to the effort. Thank you so much. We're going to bugger the bankers. We'll see you next week.
And the money's all spent. We're badgered from every direction. The workers get taxed while the wealthy relax. With nary a moment's reflection. Where there's grass, there's muck, and they don't give an arse. There's a program against insurrection. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians. Bugger the bureaucrats too. Bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you.
Now all you good people with passion to vent, don't give up the struggle for justice. But I've done my time on the protesters' line, and these days I show my dissent